Up next, it's the big finale for the riders who pump the pedals across the roads of Europe. And no matter how much they've given over the course of the season, they'll hope the best is yet to come as they prepare themselves for a big day in Belgium and the Road World Championships.
Because the traffic jam was horrendous. It took us 2 hours to do a journey we do in less than 40 minutes, and most of the time we were having to go down the wrong side of the road and found ourselves confronted with the lights flashing because we had the right hand side. They put the VIPs down the same road as the press, and the VIPs were enormous numbers of them, and they were quite happy to get here just in time for the start or half an hour after it started. They got a full day here to take it on board, but we had to start work exactly. We got here with 5 minutes to spare, Russell and myself. We also had to walk about a mile. So many people out there say, oh, I'd like that job of being a commentator. Yeah, but also we've been freezing for the last few days. A bit warmer now up here. We're enjoying it though, and I hope that you'll dip in and dip out. I'm sure that you'll want to go maybe, what are you going to do on a Sunday? But we will be here right the way through for this first hour. Then we have an hour's break, and then we come back for the last 4 and a half hours of the pro race. So we'll be here, we'll update you, and if you are staying all the way through with us, do bear with us if we repeat some of the things we said earlier on, because there will be people, increasing numbers. A lot of clubmen have been out riding their bikes this morning. I don't know what sort of day it is back in Great Britain, but we'll be out, I expect, on their bicycles, enjoying the late autumn weather conditions, and then we'll want to know what's been happening so far. So we'll dap back and forwards, we'll update on what's been happening in the previous laps, the speed at which they're going. But the atmosphere is absolutely tremendous today, and you can see why we had troubles getting to the circuit. And many of the spectators here, they went to bus points, park and ride bus points, up to about 7-8 miles away, and came in on great big coaches to get the people into this circuit, because there's no real main roads coming here. There are lots of diddly little roads, and so they had to think of that little lot, but they forgot about some of us who had to work here. Some of my other colleagues, they actually left about an hour before we did, and they had a bit less traffic, but we did have some problems with the police, who wouldn't let us go down a road we've been doing every day since we came here. They just blocked it off and just said, on your way, and we had to do about another 20 kilometres to find another exit to get off. So that's it. We're happy to be here. I hope you're happy to be watching the race. We do only have 2 Great Britain riders in here, but I do know that we get viewers all over Europe watching coverage of cycle racing, and in that case we'll be also trying to identify some of the other riders for you as this great cavalcade, galaxy of colours, wearing their national championship jersey. Those who've been used to watching the pro races will perhaps somebody scratching their heads now if you haven't seen what's been going on in the few days coming up to the championship here. What we'll also try and do when we come back after this break, which will be I think in about the next 10 minutes, we'll go through the results of the races so far. Comment now from Sean Kelly, how it's settling down.
Well, it is settling down a bit, but we see the French again, Jalabert, he's turned it up a bit there on the front over that little bit of a drag. So it proves that, you know, they want to get a big group up the road, because these, you know, the 2 leaders, and with Payne chasing, if he gets across a 3-man group, it's still not great enough to create any great damage for the teams who got a sprinter. So, you know, with having Murrow up the road and seeing Jalabert turning it up again, up the speed a bit, it means they want to get a bigger group up the road and make the race more difficult for the guys, the sprinter teams, and the possibility of Jalabert and some of the other French guys getting away after halfway in a breakaway. If you walk the riders over a lot in the early 50% of the race, well then you can possibly do that.
Interesting tactics, the man who knows all about it, Sean Kelly, here with me as we watch the 17 laps to go as the riders go through. The lap's time 49 minutes and 38 seconds, the average speed 46.42, so that's the overall average, which is just on the board in front of us, and we'll see what the gap is back. You can see it on your screen too as well. Whoops. The trouble is, though, the parts of it's 1 minute 30 coming over headphones is the gap from the radio tour, 1:30, so it has grown quite a bit. This is that's the 1 kilometre kite, so they will come into the circuit. Now they're off the main road onto the circuit here. That's the other side of where they are as well. They cut back out again, out onto the road. The interesting tactic again is that the Spanish on the front.
Yes, it looked like a Spanish. There is quite a few Spanish up there present, and I think, you know, they are definitely, their tactic is not to have too many guys up the road, because it's going to make it really difficult for them to take it back later if there's an 8+ group away, breakaway group.
Camera 4 shortening the gap back to, I think it's at Colombia. We have it until it settles down below. Please excuse our ignorance. We've had something like 52 nations, and most of the colours we do recognise. When they come at you all yellow on the shoulders, the Spanish ones have got little red flames on them, little curly bits. That's for the Madrid 2012. That's when they're hoping to get the Olympics there. So Madrid sponsoring the team to put that little flame on there. That's their symbol for the games in Madrid in 2012. The gap back, 1 minute and 1 minute 40 seconds. You can see up on the top of the screen there. 1 minute 44 they put up on our screen. Well, the steam's gone out of this lot, John.
Well, I think again, it's the teams that want this thing to come down to a sprint finish are not concerned at the moment. You know, with two men up the road, that's a good way to have it, because they're not going to, you know, create a huge gap. And if they get a gap of 8 or 10 minutes, it's going to be impossible for them to go on and hold on out there, because, you know, when a Spanish team and some of the other teams maybe start to just turn around a bit, the time advantage would start to melt down very, very quickly.
I saw lots of the Australian riders hovering near the front on that occasion. Just to give a rundown on the riders from Australia. We've got Cook, Davis, Gates, Heyman, McEwen, McGee, O'Grady, O'Neill, Rogers, Vogels and White and Wilson. Each of those riders we've been seeing quite a lot of, particularly back in Great Britain, where O'Grady took the Commonwealth Games just recently. Cracking team the Australians have got here. Well, on the front, together with the rider from Kazakhstan that went away, Muravyev, on this big sweeping circuit at Zolder. Well, they're pressing on here. Murrow, having gone out after Jackie Duran tried to get away in the early laps. A lot of the Dutch riders getting to the front as well too. In fact, the whole of the Dutch team is right near the front. And looking at the Dutch team in the race, we named them for you. Bogart, Boven, De Jong, Kanavan, Kurtz, Kroon, Schmitz, Draxel, Van Dijk, Van Heijswijk and Verhoeven. There's one or two reasonable road sprinters there, but there isn't what I call a true out-and-out sprinter. Perhaps Van Heijswijk as being one of their best sprinters over the years. But surely with them getting towards the front, do you think there's any reason that the Dutch would also like to get involved with an early break?
Yes, I think the Dutch would like to be up there in the break, but you know, knowing the Dutch, they're able to, tactic-wise, a lot of the riders are very good working out that, and I don't think this one is a dangerous thing, getting somebody up the road with the two leaders. I think if there's a group of 8 or 10 riders, I think then we'll be definitely seeing a Dutch rider in there then. But for the moment they're not concerned, and I think they will be very active in the second half of the race, because they want to break up this thing and try and form a breakaway that will go to the finish.
Yeah, 2 minutes and 5 seconds of the gap now between the leaders and the main peloton.
And of course the Dutch, you know, when you look at the sprinters, as you said, Van Heijswijk, he's a guy who can, you know, he can make a place in the sprint, but to win a sprint I don't think he's good enough. Kurtz is a very good sprinter, but I think after the distance he hasn't done that in any race before over a big distance. In the big classics we haven't seen him. In the smaller stage race he's very fast, 150-60 kilometers. He's very, very strong, but I don't think Kurtz is good enough if it comes down to a sprint here against the like of the Cipollini's and the Freiras to be able to, you know, to pull off a medal. Maybe a place in the first 10, yes, between 5th and 10th, that is possible.
Intriguing too, and you mentioned the Dutch there, with Kanavan being a winner of the Paris-Roubaix. So we're going back into the peloton. I was just getting his arm warmers safely taken away. Is a number of Paris-Roubaix riders we've got here. We look at Museo Paris-Roubaix, Boonen Paris-Roubaix, Kanavan out there. I mean, there's no cobbles here, but it seems to be a similar sort of circumstances, doesn't it? Chilly, reasonably flat, and a very long way to go.
Yes, it's definitely you know, a hard, a big, strong rider's race, a powerful guy, because you know it's the hill on it is nothing for those guys. And the conditions, as you said, if it's going to, you know, get cold and a little bit wet, well then it suits those guys a little bit better again. But it's the big gear stuff that you know, that's going to suit here in the end, and that's what the big classic riders have, the riders who can do well in a Paris-Roubaix and the other classics.
Well, on the radio tour, looks like I missed the call for this puncture. It's the Spanish Spanish team, they seem to have hit the panic buttons here. Guterres is at the back here, and as he's being towed in as the last one, I presume therefore that he must have been the one that punctured, and the others have gone back to collect him. Am I right in assuming that, Sean, that the man at the back is the one that's normally punctured? Or is that a brave assumption?
Well, is that...
Astarola then, oops, in fact, no, he's also calling for a back wheel.
A lot of guys making changes, and they do not seem to be punctured. I wonder, are they putting the wet tyres on?
You mean they're changing the tyres? Well, they've got pitches in the motor racing circuit. You know, they sort of turned right coming down the finishing straight, then ran behind where the barriers are. That's where all the pits are for the motor racing, but our pits are on the other side. Those are the white tents you see.
And here we see the Dutch again. They're having a move, you know, probably trying to, you know, break up the thing and make the race.
Oh, he says, come on, Victor Hugo Peña, come on. I think Victor Hugo's decided he's had enough of that.
He comes by him at 6 or 8 mile an hour faster than he expects him to take the wheel. It's not an easy thing to do, but I think the Dutch again, you know, they want to get more riders up the road and make it a harder race, and that way it would suit their leaders like a Bogart, who is, you know, who could, I think we could see a lot of him in the end of the race, the second half certainly, because he has to get up the road. If he waits for the sprint, well, then he has no chance of doing it.
No, well, he went off at Valkenburg, didn't he, Bogart? You know, towards the end, he's got to go some. Well, the action's still here, going full bore at the moment as the riders out in front. Yes, it's just been confirmed that Victor Peña has been caught by the main group now, but the two leaders out down the road then, Moreau and Muriev from Kazakhstan. The French rider who started it all on the second lap, Christophe Moreau, joined on that lap by Muriev, and the gap grew. It was 23 seconds at the end of the third lap. By the time we by the end of the second lap, and then going into the third lap, which we just completed, the gap has now gone up to 1 minute 40. And in fact, coming over headphones, it's now it's over 2 minutes, 2 minutes 5 seconds, the last time check we had. Oh, you see, Nissa from Australia been working with her. They probably thought if he blows with a kiss, he might get a mention. And what was that? That wasn't for you, Ross. You haven't shaved for a fortnight, by the looks of it. Right then, that's the group down the road. We're looking at the main pack. What's left to it? Pretty well intact at the moment. 201 riders started, 37 nations in all, and those two riders are still out there. Gap then well over 2 minutes for Moreau and Muriev, and we've just seen them on our screen. And more attacks coming. Jackie Duran, I think it is, has just come through, and I don't know what he's trying to do here, because he's got a teammate down the road, or whether he's just trying to slow things down, or he's having a bit of a row. And well, there we are then, so the action going on hard, as we're going to be leaving the coverage of this race shortly, and back in about an hour's time. What happened there, Sean?
Well, Jackie seems to be, I think it was a German rider. He seemed to be saying what he is chasing for, you know, which is natural because he have more up the road, but he just seemed to get onto the rider who was trying to up the pace and start to chase.
Well, we've been watching that on our screens here. You can just see a top shot of this Zolder circuit, where we're going to come back then at 12:30 Central European time. That's going to be 1:30 for the British viewers. There's Cipollini. Will this thing stick together for the sprint? We're going to take it right the way through the final 4.5 hours of the race. Do join us in about an hour's time. From David Duffield, Sean Kelly and Russell, bye-bye. Our camera's picking up the action at the moment, and we've now gone through the lap 7. We've got 12 laps to go in this race, and this is the World Road Championship for the elite riders from Zolder. You see the gap there of 3 minutes and 20 seconds to the main pack here on your screen. One rider trying to bridge the gap, Victor Hugo Peña. He didn't manage to make it, so now the group behind begin to sort themselves out. With me in the commentary position, Sean Kelly, and and Russell Williams. Russell's going to dip in and dip out and find some guests to come and talk to us as well as the race settles down. First of all, though, Sean, before I run through what's happened so far, it does appear that now the sun's coming out, that the worries we had early on with the ice skating almost, and the riders taking it very carefully, we haven't had the crashes we've had in the other races, the junior men, the under-23s and junior women. But what's going to happen now that it's beginning to dry out? Do you think this is a critical time? We've got 12 laps to go when they come through?
Well, I think it's going to make it a bit safer for the riders, certainly. A lot of riders will get more confidence as it gets dry. I think the like of Jalabert wouldn't really like to have to race a final on this sort of circuit because it's very, very slippery. And Museeuw, for that matter, they're not these kamikaze guys. Like if Ferenc, for example, I think he would be a guy who could race very well in the wet because he can take so much chances on those dangerous conditions. So I think we will see a lot of good racing now in the end when it dries up, and I think we will see a better race as well, because we could lose some of the favourites very, very easy on these wet and slippery roads. So I have my fingers crossed this morning, and I'm hoping we will get dry roads, because we've had a very good race up to now, very active. We see here the Dutch team are doing a lot of work trying to get men up the road. The French are the same. So with the roads drying out, I think we will see some spectacular racing for the rest of the afternoon.
Welcome then to coverage of this World Road Championship for elite men. That was Sean Kelly talking about the circuit and where we are now. And for those who are staying with us, I hope from the motorcycling Malaysia, you've been watching that two wheels, powered wheels, thundering around that big Sepang circuit. And if any of the motorcyclists are hanging on still at the Queen's Head in box, welcome to our program too, and any other motorcyclists that turns into as well, because I know at the Queen's Head in box they watch the coverage of Eurosport of all the motorcycling in the back room there, and I've no doubt that many other motorcyclists may want to stay with us with it now. I hope you will do, by the way, because we had bikes on the road, pedal push bikes, which then people came along and stuck engines on them. Then we had motorcycles, and then of course cars developed from that too. So you're seeing the early part of history, really, of course, going back to those days. They had a big wheel at front, small wheel at back, and then they went to J.K. Starley's design of the equal wheels on the diamond frame, and from that many things have happened. So this is now getting interesting. It's beginning to break up. Sean Kelly and Russell, keep your eyes on this, because I'll go quickly through what's happened so far for those riders who've been out this morning on their club run, or perhaps you back at home have been out shopping down the supermarkets. It's open in the morning on Sunday, or perhaps you've been to church. We actually disturbed the church people this morning. They were coming out of the church against our attempt to get to the racing circuit. We got it with 5 minutes to go, and we even took a shortcut across the church car park. Anyway, on with the what's happened so far. It looks like the Australians are getting stuck in here, so keep your eyes down, look in, as I will take you through what's happened so far in the race. I'll come back to Bettina's in this little breakaway group at the moment. Just quickly then about some of these chaps in this breakaway group. Is this a decisive move, Sean? Well, not say totally decisive, but we haven't seen a group like this really start to split it, have we, so far?
No, we have never seen a group like this, and I think some of the teams are not wanting a group like this to get away. This is a 15-plus group. The Spaniards especially, we see them earlier on, they were very much up around the front. They allowed a group of, the two men to go down the road, or a guy to attack on his own, but they did not like to see a bigger group going up the road. And we see now there's a lot of riders chasing and trying to get across. We have a number of riders, 6 to 8 riders getting across here, but also in the front of the bunch there's some team, and I would not be surprised if it's not the Spanish team riding to close down this gap, because with this group coming across, there's well over 20 riders here, and that's not what they do not need.
They've done over 50 miles, by the way, since we started. They're averaging, as at the last time check, 45.6 kilometres an hour. At the moment, it's a record-breaking speed for what used to be the pro race. We now call it the elite men's race as well. So they really have been hammering along here at a great rate of knots, and it looks still there's no prisoners taken, as they are beginning to reform, and up comes the main pack. That surely will nullify action now.
Yes, it certainly does. As we see there, there's 3 whitish jerseys on the front there, and they seem to be closing down that gap. And but I think again we will see the same thing over and over again, groups attacking and going away. So I think we will see a lot of that, and we see Zolder here now, trying to get away. And I think there's an awful lot of riders here in this race that just want to try and get into a break, because in the sprint, there's nothing they can do, especially a sprint like this, dead flat. It's a real sprinter's finish if it comes down to a point French.
And Zolder's a very good good time trial. He's a world time trial champion in the past as well. Not the world's greatest sprinters, but there's no sort of really steep climb in this one to break this thing up. So how's it going to happen, Sean? We saw a little gap then. Is it just sheer speed at the front now?
Yes, I think hard racing is definitely going to make it difficult in the end, and I think the latter laps, after a lot of hard racing, there will be a lot of guys tired, but the likes of Zolder and that sort of rider, they will have to start attacking, and there's a lot of riders need to get up the road in a break, and quite a big break as well, because you need 8 or 10 riders any chance to stay away.
You're looking at the main pack at the moment, still 2 riders down the road. The lead around about 3.5 minutes, and those 2 riders are Moreau from the French squad and Muriev from Kazakhstan. We're just looking more at this bunch at the moment than going up there to look at our 2 breakaways, and I've been trying to update viewers, those who are watching our program live this afternoon, on the positions of what's been happening in the previous laps, because it's been pretty quick so far. And I'm sure you'd like to know what's been happening, but right now this seems to be a rather critical thing. The chaps are going off the front, left, right and centre. Fortunately the weather looking better. The sun is out on parts of the course. The dampness we had this morning has now moved away, and here are our 2 leaders. Right, there they are, coming along the road in towards the finishing circuit shortly, and those riders, we go back to one man trying to cross the 3.5 minute lap, 3.5 minute gap at the moment. A soulless task, I think. So whilst we're just going to look at him, that is going to be Sabluskayas from Lithuanian. Let's look back at what happened so far. On lap 1, Jackie Durand, as soon as we left the finishing circuit, or the whole circuit, he tried to get away, and he was reasonably successful. At first lap, he opened up a bit of a gap, and then the rest of the field decided to do something about it. And at the end of that lap, they'd got him, and it was first lap, 16 minutes and 47 seconds. That was 47 kilometres an hour was the speed of the first lap. Then on lap 2, the bit of a flurry when Durand went through just as a bunch were closing on him. Schmidt tried to go up to him from the Netherlands, didn't work out. They all sort of sat up and looked at each other, and again we had another attack from the French. We'd even seen Jalabert on the first lap trying to go up with Durand, but on lap 2 the elastic broke and Moreau attacked from the French squad. He was joined by Merivev from the Kazakhstan team, and as they came through they were just got a bit of daylight, and that lap was 16 minutes and 45 seconds, just a bit quicker than the first lap. The average 46.6. The 2 leaders only came through with a 23-second lead at that particular end of the second lap. So by lap 3, as they went into lap 3, they started to accelerate, and at the end of lap 3, the 2 leaders, Moreau and Muriev, had a lead of 1 minute and 40 seconds. At that lap, they did a quicker one, 16 minutes and 41 seconds. The average overall was 46 minutes an hour. The lap 4, the gap kept growing. 1 or 2 riders at the back were having trouble, punctures here and getting back in again. Nothing very serious, a bit of a crash which delayed them, but nobody, as far as we can find out, was particularly hurt in that. And as I say, the lead grew to some 2 minutes, and at the end of that lap, 16 minutes and 53 seconds, slowing down a bit. The average 46.18 kilometres per hour. By lap 5, Van Petegem punctured. We'd also seen Museo puncture earlier on, and the team just dropped back, took him back up. They did the same thing for Van Petegem. Professionally, the way they wait for the wheel change, there are more cars, or 25 cars for the nations behind, so there's much more of a convoy to go through to get back, and Van Petegem got back. And at the end of that 5th lap, the 2 leaders had a lead of 1:59, still hovering about the 2 minute mark. The speed had gone down a bit. The time was 17 minutes and 5 seconds, and the average 45.9. The 2 leaders, Moreau and Muriev, continued with their lonely ride out the front, and despite various attempts by like Victor Hugo Peña to go across to get up with him, nothing really happened. Anyone who tried to go down the road didn't last very long. So at the end of the lap 6, the position was still that the 2 leaders were in the lead. They'd built it up now to 2 minutes and 36 seconds. The time of that lap 6 was 16 minutes and 58 seconds, and the overall average was 45.8. Going into the lap 7, again an abortive attempt to try and close the gap down, didn't work out. So at the end of the 7th lap, the 2 leaders had 3 minutes and 39 ahead of the main pack, and the time 17 minutes and 7 seconds, and average speed dropping a bit overall to 45.6. And then as we went on into the next lap, the situation at the moment is that you can see coming on here on your screen then, you've now caught up with the lap board. Now you can see they've been raced for 2 hours and 15 minutes, and the clock will show the gap there. Well, they were there for a moment. In the lighter blue was Morrow, and in the light blue with the yellow splash on the back was the rider from Kazakhstan who went away and caught up with Morrow, and that was Muriev. Right, it seems now to be settling down a bit. I put you in the picture about what's been happening all the way through at the moment, and let's get the input then from Sean, who's been watching while I've been chatting away there. Anything to report, Sean, on what's been happening?
No, not a great lot of action. As we see this rider being caught, but one rider going across the gap on his own. It's not possible to bridge that gap on these the 2 leaders out front, because the advantage is just too big. I think shortly we will see a lot of attacks from the French team. I think we will see more attacks because they need to do that. Although they have more up the road, I don't think they're going to leave it at that and leave him out there all day. So we will see them, and also the Dutch team. I think the Belgium team, we will see quite a few of their riders having to go as well. So from here on in, I think we will see a bit of action, more action out of the bunch, because too many riders with the interest of trying to break this thing up and try and form a good breakaway. But again, the Spaniards are doing a good job there. We see them, and I'm pretty sure it was the Spanish team that closed down that big group of over 20 riders. They are going to try and keep doing that all day today, and hopefully just take it down to a sprint for Ferreira.
Ah, good. Well, we have to wait and see. We've all got our opinions here, and it's changing. Here he is talking about getting a bunch sprint finish, and Sean was saying it might be down to lone breakaways, but we haven't been able to get more than 2 riders down the road, have we? And do you think the French might have lost the plot? Because off went Duran to begin with on the first lap, didn't quite work out. Mason and Jalabert tried to have a go, that didn't work well. Morrow had a go and rammed himself in the barriers, got back and then broke it after that one. So the French have gone off down the road, but presumably though, right now they must be wondering what the hell they've done, because they've only got one man with a chap from Kazakhstan, and that surely is not enough. So no, it didn't really work. What do you think? No,
certainly not enough. 2-man out there, even if they get 10 or 12 minutes, it's when these guys start racing in the second half of the race, that gap would just come down so rapidly with 2 men out there. But I think we haven't seen the end of Jackie Duran yet. I think we will see more action from later on as the race hottens up, and also from other countries. The Belgians, I think they have quite a few riders. Like if Museo, I think he's definitely going to do a lot in the second half of the race to try and get into a good break and contest the win from a breakaway group.
There we are, gap showing on your screen there, just over 2 minutes, just under 3 minutes actually, 2:50 and a bit, with 12 laps to go at the moment, and certainly we have seen the riders from the Netherlands get toward the front and try to drive it too as well. It didn't quite come off, so the riders, the main group of the starters from 37 nations now going out with 12 laps to go. Well, the main group, as you can see on his screen, going through the area where we have the feed zone, and that is where the pits are too, for the riders who eventually want to retire from the fray. We hope that we don't see the retirement here of 152. That's David Miller on the front, just going through safely, going I think on the far left-hand side. He's I think just taken off his arm warmers. We have got something about 84 of Switzerland just doing something. I don't know what it is, but he came over by my headphones and just picked that bit up. The 3 minutes now is the time check as they've gone through the pits. Everybody's safely through the pit area. We see quite a few problems with the 150 kilometres to go, a mere bagatelle. And they're going remarkably quickly. This could be the fastest average speed of the World Championships. If you look back in the previous World Championships at the speeds that have been achieved, and we go back. In fact, the information we heard about the Swiss rider was Mauro Gianetti from Switzerland had a mechanical problem. He's now coming back through the main pack. Good place to have a problem coming through the pits. They all slow down to get their food, but now coming out the other side, we go into the Gilles Villeneuve chicane. That's where Gilles Villeneuve lost his life when he was in the qualifying section of the Formula 1 Grand Prix that was held here at Zandvoort. In fact, the Belgian Grand Prix was held 10 years. It was held here, and I think it was 83 they moved it onto Spa, where it is now held on a much more up and down circuit. It's very extremely flat here, but they still use this circuit for truck racing. They use it for, they've had to use Formula 3000 been here, club racing, saloon car racing, and we've had the World Championship on this circuit too, or using part of this circuit, and that was back in 1969 when Harm Ottenbruss won the Championship of the World. In 1969, when he won the World Championship, that was the fastest at that particular point, and he went round that circuit, or bits of this circuit, to an average speed of 41.1 kilometers per hour. It was in 1969. Ottenbruss, who disappeared from the scene after that, we hardly saw. In fact, he became a hermit, according to the sort of general folklore of cycle racing. He certainly didn't do any good after that with the rainbow jersey on his shoulders. In 1970, at Leicester, where the finish was also on a motor race circuit, but much smaller one than this, and that was at Mallory Park near Leicester, and Jean-Pierre Montserrat won that one, an average speed of 41.4 kilometers an hour. So it just went forward by 0.3, and that was in 1970. It took 15 years after that before Joop Zoetemelk from Holland won in 41 minutes, sorry, an average speed of 41.5, and now we can see the Dutch riders are on the front stirring this one up. So Zoetemelk kept that record until 1998 at Valkenburg, when Kamazin did 42.8 kilometers per hour, and then in 2 years ago in Plouay in the year 2000, at that circuit, a somewhat flatter circuit, bit of a drag in him, it was Weinsteins who won the elite race with an average speed of 42.9. That's nearly 43 kilometers an hour. The race at the moment is still averaging some 45.5 kilometers per hour as the riders are ducking and diving, and the tactics, Sean's scribbling on his book here, 3 minutes to those two chaps down the road, but it's a race within a race, and how do you read it at the moment? Any man for himself?
Well, I think the 3 minutes down the road is not, it's nothing at all really. The bunch is not really thinking about that. What's happening here is those guys, attacking. We see there's quite a big group here. They have a small gap at the moment. The bunch is coming back. But there's 15 plus riders here, and we see Bettini is quite active. He's been up the road there in the last biggest breakaway as well, and he's also this one, so he's definitely trying to get into a break. And if that happens, well, then the Italians I don't think are going to ride at it, because we see Bettini last year on the sprint, he finished up there in the medals. I think it was it second or third? I think it was second. He was actually.
It was.
But he's a very good sprinter, and if he comes down to a sprint in a group of 15 men, well, then he could very well win this race. So the Italians are not going to ride after that. So he's proven he can sprint. So they're not just riding for Cipollini alone. I think the Italian team, if it comes that is together with 3 laps to go, then we would see the Italians working for Cipollini. But before that, I don't think they're going to put the team to ride for him on the front, because it's just too much a risk to try and control a race with so many teams, so many countries wanting for a breakaway in this race, because they don't have a sprinter good enough to win.
Well, Bettini just looking through the books and there, because sometimes your brain goes on the brink. When Oscar Freire won in Portugal last year, 2001, Bettini was second. Hultman of Slovenia was in third spot. Dekker of the Netherlands was fourth, and Eric Zabel into fifth place. That was the top 5 for riders last year. Looking at the 2 breakaway riders, the gap is some 3 minutes, which as Sean is saying doesn't look enough, and they're quite active behind that. If we go back then to the race in Plouay, I mentioned that Weinsteins did the ride there, and that's the fastest one we got at the moment. Spruck was second. Oscar Freire was in third spot then. If we go back again to Verona, where Oscar Freire won that one, Zerberg second, Robin was into third spot. So Oscar Freire's not been out of the medals, and the Spanish team was certainly coming in here with the Tour of Spain in their legs, seem to be very keen to make sure that he doesn't lose a chance of getting another medal. Sean, Tour of Spain now, when you were riding it, was at the front end of the season, around about April, May. Now it's been moved to the back end of the season. What advantage is that to riders who've ridden that race? Will they be tired out, or do you think that's put the edge on it?
No, I think it's put the edge on the form. Unless you're, having a very hard season, raced a big number of races, and if you have done that, there's very few riders that go to the Tour of Spain if they have had that program. So the riders go to the Tour of Spain are going because they still have something to prove, or they feel that they can still do a good national tour. And you come out of a Tour of Spain in very good shape. It's the best preparation for a race like the World Championships, because a 3-week tour, every day you have a massage, you get a lot of rest, because this time of year when riders go back home, you're inclined to slip a little bit, and you start going out to the shops, doing a little bit of shopping, little things that you don't do maybe in the first half of the season, the first 3 quarters of the season, and those little things pay. But when you're in the Tour of Spain, you're focused on the racing and you do nothing. You live the life of a bike rider at 100%, and the performances show from that. And the guys definitely in the Tour of Spain, I think we will see a lot of them, and I would be not surprised if it's not a rider who took part in the Tour of Spain will win this one today.
Very interesting. What about those like Cipollini and Oscar Freire that didn't go the distance? Would that be to their advantage to do the first 10 days, 14 days, because they climbed off before they got to the mountains?
Yes, well, again, the sprinter guys, they're a breed really all of their own, and especially the Cipollini, he does so much. And Cipollini is a guy who do not have to do a lot of racing. He does a certain amount of racing and he gets very good shape from that. And that's why you've seen him in the tours. He rides so many days a week, win a stage or two, then he's seen in the mountains 2 days in the distance and he goes home. And, he's able to still have form by doing that. And that depends on the rider. Individual riders, they don't need a lot of racing. They can still hold very good shape. And, I think Cipollini, he's prepared, very well for this race. Did the Giro, then went back and did some sort of special training, and I think he will be definitely up for it. But then again, he's going to stay here in this bunch, and he's just going to come out in the last 300 metres, and
we won't see him till then, will we?
Well, we'll not see. I don't think we will see a lot of him until then. I'll be surprised if we do.
Now then, about Cipollini, and I know a lot of people really like his performances out here, but surely the challenge are going to be split, aren't they, with the Pertini and Cipollini? So we'll have to see what happens later on down the road between that Italian group. Well, you can see the Italian jersey on the front at the moment, and on the right-hand side are the Spanish trying to put the lid on things as well. If it does come down to a sprint, then you can... we'll get closer to it, by the way. If it is coming down to a sprint, we'll name the top sprinters, but my goodness, there's I suppose who's who in the sprinting circuit is here. As we did with the time trial the other day, except for Armstrong and Ulrich, we had all the class time trialists in the elite time trial championship. What I'll do is you can now see these 2 riders on the front who are going away still at 3 minutes ahead. A lot of the cyclists may not have caught up with all the results of the racing so far at Zolder, and please excuse me, that Sean and Russell will keep their eyes on what's going on the course. I go backwards through what has happened since we opened up the Championship of the World here. There's a now call for Italy over the radio tour for some help from the team car. 2 minutes and 25 seconds, and it's braking. Why on earth would Moreau go away, or do you think this bloke's stuffed, Sean?
Well, it's very surprising to see this guy, losing contact with Moreau, because you'd expect him to be able to stay in the wheel of Moreau for quite a long time further into this race. But he's definitely not riding well when he's losing contact with Moreau so early. Again, a lot of those riders we're not sure what sort of a program they have had, and some of them might have a very good program leading up to this race, and for that reason they go up the road. We see him, he was very relaxed earlier on. He was like a guy going out for just a casually ride. He was waving at the camera, so maybe he knew that he just haven't got the shape and he wanted to get up the road to just
get himself on television. He waved us. We waved back too. He didn't see that though. Now the camera's going on the motorcycle going very quickly down the road. That gap is opened up quite considerably, and Moreau's just taken a flyer. And do bear in mind, by the way, that we've only just gone through. We're now going into when they come to 11 laps. We've not even got halfway point in this race, which is going to cover 256 kilometres in all. So he's still got about 125, 130 kilometres to go. Long old haul. Russell.
Yeah, I mean, Christophe Moreau, obviously he took 4 crashes in the Tour de France, and that was the end of it for him. But like Sean was saying earlier, I mean, a lot of people start the season really strong and finish weakly, but I think Christophe Moreau's got a lot to prove. A lot of money was spent on him. He's gone to Credit Agricole. They relied on him in the Tour de France. It all went pear-shaped. Since then, he's been training hard. Hey, and this is where he's got to prove it.
Morrow then on his own, and we're going back then to what's happened so far. You can see that Morrow's on his own. We look about what's been going on at Zolder since now come 1 kilometre to go. Quickly run down then in the women's elite road race the other day. Yesterday, in fact, Lundskog of Sweden was first. Brandl of Switzerland was in second spot. Samariba of Spain was third. Britain's Nicole Cook was delayed in a crash, as well. Most of the other riders in the British team. Our British girls did very well indeed, and in the end it meant that Nicole Cook finished back in 34th position, 27 seconds down. They were falling off left, right and centre in rather wet conditions, and a shame then that Nicole and many other star riders were delayed. And in fact, a nasty crash took out Petra Rosner. She was floored early on in the race, so the elite women's race then, after all the falling down, Lundskog came out a beautiful way in which she crossed the gap to the 3 leaders. The 3 leaders, Brandley, Samariba and Callaghan, had been away for about a lap and a half. They chose to go a good time, and then suddenly Lundskog came across them in the final kilometre, and so Callaghan, who'd been in that leading group, was pushed down into 4th spot. In the junior men's race, before we had the women's race in the afternoon, it was Arnaud Gérard of France who took the gold medal and the rainbow jersey, ahead of Vastalanta from Finland, and in 3rd spot was Nicholas Sanderson from Australia. That was the result of the junior men's race, and if we go over the page here on all these massive bits of paper, and we go back then to the time trials which were held, the under-23 time trial, that was Kicci of Italy who won that one. Sorry, so the under-23 road race, Kicci of Italy won that one. Gutierrez of Spain was second, and Lucy of Switzerland was in 3rd spot. A big bunch sprint it was that gave Kicci the lead. Originally Decker was in 2nd spot. He got disqualified, leaving Gutierrez to move up into 2nd, Lucy into 3rd. Janto Parker finished in 12th spot in the main group on that occasion. Mark Scanlon was also in the main pack. It's very good how the under-23 British riders were riding very well indeed, but they had more than their fair share of problems. But Tom Southam's finished there in 67th spot on the classification. They've been doing a lot of work early on, but in the end, Jamie Alberts had also been right at the front of things, finished off for 3 minutes down, or 3 and a bit minutes, in 123rd spot. The biggest problem in that race was that Daniel Lloyd of Great Britain crashed and rather badly hurt his face. We understand he's making good recovery too. In the junior men's race too yesterday morning, lots of the Brits found themselves being floored by the condition. In fact, of the 4 riders that started, 3 of them did not finish, and one of them had a broken finger and seems to have hurt his arm. It's all in plaster now as well. So it was a terrible lot of crashes we had in the junior men's race. They're all in the end sprinting for whatever place they could get in. It was just mayhem, a bit like charge of the Light Brigade. Going on to the women's road race for the junior riders, Suzanne de Goud won that with a superb sprint, just bursting clear of the pack from Claudia Stumpf of Germany and Monica Höller from Sweden. In the time trials, the elite men's time trial was won by Botero. If you haven't caught up with him, he's in a yellow jersey for Colombia. It's a bit like we see on the right-hand side of our screens right now. He came here with complaining about the flu. He got on his bike. He was 3rd at the first 2 time checks, and by the time he came to finish, he got 1st, and his average speed was 50 kilometers an hour for the distance. That was a finishing time of 48 minutes and 8 seconds for Botero to win the 40 kilometer men's time trial, just over 25 miles, and he did it at an average speed of 50 kilometers an hour. That's over 30 miles an hour. Michael Rich of Germany was in 2nd spot, and from Spain it was Gonzalez into 3rd spot. Britain's David Miller finished in 6th spot. He was a bit unhappy about that. Dangerfield of Britain finishing 25th spot. Going back to junior men's time trial, that was won by Ignatiev of Russia. Mark Jamieson of Australia was 2nd, and the Italian Nibali was into 3rd spot. For the women's elite time trial, that was won by Zabrilova of Russia. Brandley of Switzerland was 2nd, and Turig of Switzerland was 3rd. the women's junior time trial. That was won by the Italian Zugno, and in second spot was Gudazzero, and in third spot Hecht. Gudazzero from Italy then making a 1-2 with Zugno first, Gudazzero second, and Hecht there into third spot. Those are the results. Oh, sorry, the under-23 time trial. Bakers won that one. Bespilov was second, and Paulino was in third spot. Those are the results of the racing so far. Welcome back. A lonely fellow being ploughed by Christophe Moreau of France. He's got 138 kilometres still to go. You can see from the pictures here the circuit. They've just come off the circuit out onto the roads. It's beginning to dry out now, and I've been reading out, watching our live programme, what's been happening so far in the World Championship. Sean Kelly's been keeping an eye on the racing, as they've now, when they've just come through, they've got 10 laps to go. Much to report, Sean? As it all seems sort of situation normal?
Well, it's pretty normal. I was expecting a bit more of an action out of the bunch. The French team, the Dutch team, I thought we would see a bit of action from them, trying to get a breakaway group away to make the race difficult, so that they could do something later on. But I definitely think, from here on in, we will definitely have to see some action, because
although Cipollini will be walking his way up to the rainbow jersey, eh?
Exactly. They're going to play it into Cipollini, into Freira's hands, so they've got to start doing it pretty shortly in the next 2 laps. They have to start opening up this race, otherwise it's very difficult to do it on a circuit like this. We've seen it in the other races where they've stayed together, almost right through the race. There's never a group got away, and then they've raced very hard in the last number of laps, but just impossible to split it, because the circuit is not difficult enough to do that. The other thing is, if you don't race really hard, a lot of those guys will be still in good shape, so you have a lot of fellas who will start closing gaps, and it's very difficult to get a breakaway group if you get into the last 4 or 5 laps, if it hasn't gone then.
And the wind, which has been blowing and gusting early on during the week, seems to be just non-existent now.
Yes, that's very much so. There's no wind of any of anything to talk about out there today, and that's why the cloud it's been hanging about there this morning, and it was looking like it was going to rain. It was very dark looking, although now it is clearing up and the sun is trying to break through, but it's been like that for the last hour, so hopefully it will come through and dry up the circuit, and I think it's better for the quality of race and for the final point of view.
Thank you, Sean. Looking there, that's what we said to Russell Williams. He's got to do his commentary from up there. He nearly fell over when we pointed up there in the sky. It's just behind where we're sitting now at the moment. And imagine going up there, all those stairs. And I expect the chaps at the top with the cameras are very happy indeed that we haven't got the wind which we had earlier on. It was bitingly cold, and in the commentary box with that little red roof on the left-hand side that runs along where we're doing our commentary from there, and it has been bitterly cold, but the weather now somewhat better today, and perhaps without the wind it's not going to make such an interesting race as we were expecting. But you never know with the pros. There's just a call for one of the Russian riders' attention at the back of the field. Nothing significant at the moment to report. So here we are then, we're looking back at, well, we have looked back at what's been happening so far, and we've been changing the third man in the commentary point to Nisa Shabella from Australia. Nisa, when I read out the list of the successes so far, you've got Mark Jameson second there in the junior men's time trial, and Sarah Carrington yesterday just failing to get the medals into 4th spot. What are the chances of the Australians now in the race? You've seen them hovering near the front. How do you feel about them?
Well, this is the first time that we've been able to qualify with a full team, and really I think Australia's been riding under the name of the Australian Cyclones, and I'm quite glad the wind settled down today, because it was really gusting. I think that Alan Davis and Matt Heyman have been up the front doing keeping an eye on things while our sprinters have been sitting inside the pack and making sure that they've got plenty of legs. But I think, the Australian team, we've got quite a few boys that are in the same teams. We've got Francais de Jeu working with our New South Wales Institute with the young development riders. We've got Matt Wilson, Brad McGee, as well as Baden Cook. Baden Cook and Bradley, obviously 2 big sprinters that have had fantastic seasons as well this year. Stuart O'Grady hasn't done much this year. He's had a bit of a injury and a bit of a slow season, but he did come through with a gold medal in the Commonwealth Games. The team looked after him there, so he's had a good result this year. He'd be looking for something to make the year finishing on a high note. And of course Robbie McEwen, you can't go past Robbie. He's had over 19 wins this year, and obviously one of the favourites. But we just have to see, though. It's as I say, these one-day races are a lottery, and anyone could be there.
And you just mentioned Robin McKeown. I mean, he was winning races in January. Here we are in October.
Yeah, usually you think that they'd peak and low, but he's had a phenomenal season, and I think Robbie's just he's hungry. He's had his big success in the Tour de France, and I think he's probably had enough money in the kit to be able to maybe spread some of it around.
Yeah, I think did he go and buy a new motor car or something after when they got the green? He did something with the green jersey. I think he went out and celebrated in some sort of way, but that was an amazing performance to get the green jersey on the Champs-Élysées, Robbie, with that final sprint of the day, and Eric Zabel just not having the fire that we used to see him with to hit the green jersey off him. That was on the Champs-Élysées, the sprint. You will probably watch it on Eurosport, and here Sean Kelly then can look back. I think we saw anguish to the same thing happening to him when he lost the green jersey in the final sprint on the Champs-Élysées. But as far as the Australians are concerned, I mean, Sean, coming from Ireland, is quite used to this sort of weather. The Australians are also up in the north as well at the moment. Then they go south. It's your summer coming up, isn't it? I mean, how much rest are these chaps going to get? Or when's your sort of key racing season for the men start?
Well, in fact, we've got the Sun Tour on the 18th of October, so some of the boys will be going back home and racing and continuing the racing. And in fact, I've heard that young Nick Sanderson that crashed yesterday and had a horrific broken nose and some teeth also. He's going to have some facial reconstruction. He's actually going to be good enough to be racing for the junior team in the Sun Tour in a few days' time when he gets back.
You Aussies have made a sterling stuff, aren't you? No wonder we couldn't beat you in the Commonwealth Games.
No, but yeah, they have a few weeks over Christmas, but it's such beautiful weather, and we've also, of course, we've got a national championships very early on in the year. And right on that, you've got the Tour Down Under and quite a few other races that are happening around us. So the boys don't get much of a break.
As this lot seem to be just taking a break anyway. Let's go back also then in your comments about the Tour Down Under. How's that being received in Australia? Because I remember going out to the very first one and been out most years since then.
Of prize money and also the great climbs like Genting, Cameron Highlands. We don't have that. Our race is primarily a sprinters race and people that want early form for the classics, but in terms of an event, in the picture of Australia as well as in South Australia, it's just phenomenal. It's growing every year. There was a government change last year, and there were some concerns that some money would be taken away, but we'll see.
How is Stuart O'Grady received now in Adelaide after winning the Commonwealth Games? I don't suppose he's been back yet either, but the performance he's done in the Tour de France and so on. He's also won the Tour Down Under too. Is he becoming like a little local god then? Because he doesn't spend much time there. Is he hunted down by people who want to get his autograph?
No, Stuart's a really down-to-earth guy, despite his successes when he's home. People love him.
Just coming out headphones, the gap is 3 minutes to Christophe Moreau. When he comes through this time, it'll show 10 laps to go halfway through the race. And the sun is shining here on Christophe Moreau, who went away, looking back to my notes here, because he's been away an awful long time now. We first of all had Jackie Durand attacking on lap 1. Then he seemed to be, or tried to be accompanied by Jalabert, but that didn't work. So Moreau, after parking his bike in the barriers at one particular point, rejoined the race, and on lap 2 he took off with Morevev of Kazakhstan, and that was after lap 2. So when he comes through, he's been doing something like 8 laps in the lead. That's 12 kilometres per lap, so he will have done over 50 miles by the time he comes through at the end of this lap. The Kazakhstan rider stayed with him until the back end of this lap we've got here now. Suddenly it all starts breaking apart the seams again. Oh, this is a lad from Luxembourg that got a real telling off from the chief commissaire a bit further back when we were in the early part of the race. I'm not quite sure what he was up to. He's probably sort of making himself comfy and did it in the eyes of the public. You're not allowed to do things like that. Trouble if you want a leak, how the heck do you do it on a race like this? There's nowhere to hide, is there?
No, there certainly is not. It's a difficult one here. You know, we see the riders in the early part of the race. They usually hop off, but as you said, the barriers all around. There's no place to go here. So it is going to be a problem for the riders. But going back to the Australian riders, it's amazing to see a full team, the way they have improved, and went from strength to strength every year. And when Lisa named out the riders there, the amount of riders capable of winning this race, it's great to see. And I'm just wondering about McEwen, because he have a lot of very good sprinters there, and as Nisa said, if he didn't put some dollars on the table, it's going to be hard to get those guys to ride for them, because it's natural. They can, if they ride their own race, there's a good number who could actually win this race. So unless you have somebody as a director of the team or the rider himself who pulls everybody together the day before and say to them, look, this is the situation, it's going to be difficult to see a lot of the very good sprinters from Australia working for McEwen in the final sprint.
Yeah, because Brad McGee rides for La Francis de Jeux, doesn't he? It's still O'Grady rides for Credit Agricole. Baden Cook rides for La Francis de Jeux. There's a little undercurrent in there too as well, isn't there? I mean, they all want to do well, but they also got their team things to look after. So it's going to be very fascinating when we get towards the back end. But the one chap who's I've been very impressed with this year is this fellow Baden Cook. He's been winning towards the back end of the year. He only came into the pro ranks at the beginning of this season. We saw him out there in the Paris-Nice in March, Sean. To me, he's been very impressive in his performance. Recently, the Paris-Carrés, where he won that one. He's been there or thereabouts, and even in the Tour de France, which you imagine going there for the first time, he was in second, third, fourth, fifth all the time, showing a lot of courage, a lot of guts, and that doesn't often happen when a pro turns, a chap comes to the pro ranks. Admittedly, from the Tour de l'Avenir last year, got a couple of stages, got a good place as well, but to leap into this level, that was quite an impressive performance. But what do you think about it? Because you saw him in the Tour as well, Baden Cook.
Yes, well, it's amazing the way he has come through, and being so strong. There's very few riders and who've been able to do that, and be so performant. And if that was a Belgian rider or a French rider, we would be hearing so much about him, that he's the next so and so and the next so and so. But the Australians, we don't hear as much, and it's probably a good thing for a rider as well, because sometimes when you have a rider like Cook, the press can kill him off. They make a king of him too quickly, and he's not able to take that because he hasn't the experience in that. So it's a great way to be able to come up like that and not have that pressure from the media, and also because of the media's publicity, then the supports, and that is great not to have that for him. Although he is producing the results, he doesn't have that real big pressure.
While Sean's been filling us in about Baden Cook, we'll have a few words at Nice about that. We're watching the Belgians come to front. They started chatting here as we were chatting too. So is this the move we've been waiting for? Because various teams have gone to front, nothing seemed to happen, then suddenly they went up there, had a bit of a chat. It looks like the team manager sort of got the whip out and said, look lads, we don't want a bunch sprint of 190 riders at the end of this race. And so off they go, beginning to split the thing up. That really now has put the chasm on it. And again, looks like the Italians have been caught a little bit on the hop, one or two of them there. Look at the Belgians coming, left-hand side of the screen. Van Petegem's suddenly gone in there as well. So the Belgians now, in front of the Belgian crowd, have started really to do something about it. The Spanish going to mark that one down too in the yellow jerseys. Jackie Durand's gone across for France to try and slow the thing down. One of the Australian riders in the white, the yellow and the green have just also moved up the front, and suddenly somebody's gone and lit the blue touch paper, and the rockets now starting to fizz and go up into the sky. Or I suppose if they all nullify the thing, we go back to a yawn series. Is this the real McCoy, John?
Yes, we're definitely going to see it open up. And as we were talking, it's going to happen. And we see Baguette here now. He spoke with one of his teammates, and now he goes in the attack. And that's definitely going to be, he's one of the guys, who would be the first guys to attack to start opening up the race. And then there'll be other guys who will come through later, likes of Museo and a lot of the other guys in the Belgian team. But we see the Spanish team in the front. Belguim here, he's sitting on the front, and he's controlling the race at the moment. So the Spanish have a totally different tactic to the Belgium team, and we can see that quite clearly here at the moment.
Well, Belguim coming in, second in the Tour of Spain, second in the Tour de France. So he's going back to work at Domestique, isn't he then? Someone like Belguim, hey?
Yes, Belguim is definitely a Domestique. He's staying very close to the front here, and he's doing the bit of work here. And I would say his job is to do it earlier on the race, because when the race really gets hard, although he could be up there, he might be a little bit afraid when the big guys start fighting going into the corners in the last 6 or 8 laps. So he's probably proposed himself that he would do it earlier on to get out of the danger, because I don't think Belguim would like that sort of a job, fighting up there with them big Belgium guys. He's not that sort of style of rider.
Do they lean on you?
Yes, well, the Belgians will lean on a lot today, and they've got to do something today. The Belgians, they haven't got a medal in this World Championships.
No, they haven't.
So the big pressure is on. I've spoken to some of the journalists there today, the TV guys from Belgium. They're talking. They said we haven't got a medal. If we don't get to something today, it's a disaster.
I hope you'll stay with us on Eurosport to see if the disaster happens. I suppose they won't let the Belgians go home. They'll lock them in the circuit and send them out training. As yet again, the Belgians having a go on the front. This is Dirkson's, isn't it?
Yes, Ludo that's the man, Ludo. Definitely we'll see a lot of Ludo, throwing this thing up, making it very difficult for the bunch, make a hard race of it, and then I think we will see some of the really bigger hitters from the Belgium team.
He's got the sort of well-lived-in face, and even when it's going slow, it looks like he's trying hard. And there he is on the front, stretching him yet again. Typical style of Ludo Dirksen, who's now got to do a lot of work to try and catch our lead man. But in any case, the wearing down process really has happened. Although they're coming up now with 10 laps to go, the average speed is 45 kilometres an hour. Well, Mason has very quick 27 miles an hour, but they're really starting to go now. They come through there, and the gap has come down to 2 minutes, just over 2 minutes on your screen. 2 minutes and 7 seconds. It was 3. It's down to 2. One man on his own, Christophe Moreau, is I think just going to have to sort of keep going, but any moment now, or not any moment, but probably on this lap, he's going to have the peloton breathing down his neck. It doesn't seem to me, Sean, going fast enough that gaps are opening up though either, so we'll have to wait till they come out of the circuit when they go onto a narrow road, and this purge will continue. Stay with us on Eurosport. We've got a break coming up. Let's hope we can come back just as the action restarts. It's slowing down just a bit at the moment. After that bit of flurry of activity, it does seem that perhaps the riders have decided they'll wait to get to the narrow parts. As we can see, one of the Australian riders are taking off his kit, his kegs, or whatever they call it out in Australia, his Guernseys, or I don't know what the technical term is. We're another English-speaking nation, and with slightly different terminology in there, but there he goes down the road to join up. The little purge we had coming into the finishing circuit seems to have died down at the moment, but wait till it restarts. In fact, they're now starting to go through the Gilles Villeneuve curve, and yes, a bit of action there. Before we sort of hand over elsewhere, the sun is now beginning to shine, and Nisso, you've been watching the racing so far with the Australians. Is there sort of, do you think it's been going according to team orders? They've been near the front but not doing much yet. What do you think they're going to be up to?
Well, I think that they've been working hard, and there's been times where the weather's got, the best, especially with the girls, weather's got the best, and obviously yesterday was very dangerous, but it was aggressive. The girls have been working well. I think it's been a bit sad for us that we've been so close yet so far in the medals, but of course we're going home with the bronze and silver, so, it's not all over, and the fat lady hasn't sung, the race isn't over yet today, so... Yeah, I think Shane Bannon will be very happy.
Yeah, that Mark Jameson talent for the future?
Absolutely.
On the track or the road, because he's got both open to him, hasn't he?
Well, a lot of the Australian riders like to work up both disciplines, and a lot of them I know go mountain biking when they go home for break over summer. So I think it's great that they can do both and be successful at the top level at both. Someone like Bradley McGee can break his collarbone in a road race, and 5 days later be winning gold medals at major Olympic meets and Commonwealth Games and things like that. Just the tenaciousness of them. They're very, very hungry, the Australian riders.
It didn't the kangaroo burgers ate it, or is it the Jacobs Creek Red Ink? Something makes the Aussies go.
Probably a combination of both, I think.
Right. Now, before you go, Nisa, and we hope to bring you back if an Australian starts to go up there, they seem to have a massive pool of riders over here now. I know they've got the Australian Institute of Sport, but what's going on at very much the grassroots level with young kids riding bikes? Is there any changes happening there?
Yeah, well, different states have different programs, but the Australian Institute of Sport manages the different states sometimes I think it's a bit of an ad hoc way, but I think obviously it's working. Whatever is working is working. Adelaide's been the main centre for the track program, and the high performance program's been, and the endurance program have been over in Italy with Shane Bannon, but now he's moved into national coach since Charlie Walsh has retired. Shane spends more time in Australia and moving around from the different coaches of the different disciplines. But on the school level, there's nothing really much. We've really got to encourage our kids to actually get out and ride in the clubs. We don't have a time trial series at all, not like you do in England. I'd love to see something like that be developed in Australia. I think in South Australia we have one opportunity to ride a time trial in the whole season. So I'd like to see it, even though we have very good time trialers, I'd like to see something like that a bit more developed. But our kids, we tend to do every now and then they go into the schools and do like a fitness and just aptitude and whether that's for swimming or cycling, they just sort of feed them into the different sports. It's not necessarily a cycling program that they're going looking for cyclists. They think, okay, she'll be a good runner, she'll be a good swimmer, she'll be a good cyclist or whatever, and they feed them into the different sports. But yeah, you know, things are growing. I just like to see that some of our girls some more girls would get out there and ride their bikes competitively would be good.
And just one final session, because they seem to be sort of going active. You're very much involved in development programs, and certainly the riding of bikes on the road. Adelaide seems to be a very nice city for riding. It's dead flat. Sydney's a bit up and down, as we found when we were all riding around during the Olympics. Melbourne is pretty flat too. Is there any growth of what I might call commuter cycling? Are they going back to bike? Because when I was out there in the 70s, bicycles were things that only kids rode. Obviously now, looking at the number of road riders that come through, they've started doing a lot more riding. Is there any sort of move towards, like we see here in Belgium and Holland, here that reddish strip on the right-hand side, that's where the cyclists go. Is that going to be a developing project?
Same thing again, that different states have different programs and different cities have different infrastructures. We're lucky in Adelaide because we have wide, flat roads, so to retrograde and put bike lanes in and dedicated bike paths, and we have a committed state government and committed city, like the Adelaide City Council, are also very committed to doing these things. So with the program that I work with, developing bike skills with young kids, I think we talked about this a bit yesterday, that once you reach 12 years old, you're not allowed to ride on the footpath anymore, so primarily being pushed out into the road transport system. So what we're trying to do now is actually teach kids how to keep safe and be visible and keep on their bikes, especially as they get into the sort of 14, 15, 16, we start thinking about getting their driver's license at 16, and the bike stays in the shed. So we're trying to encourage kids, and obviously BMXing is huge. Extreme sports are very big in Australia and around the world, and that's where I think we've got a couple of BMXers that work as instructors in our program at the moment, and we've primarily had touring cyclists and track cyclists and some mountain bikers that have been the instructors. So it's now good to have the BMX boys along, because the kids get, you know, the kids are interested in that at that age, and so hopefully we're developing. And yeah, I could say that Adelaide's hopefully they want to be the Amsterdam of the South eventually, and I think it's a good thing.
Well, it sounds like we've got more riders coming along in the stream. You knocked hell out of us at the World Championships. The Australians up there. We're chasing after you. We Brits on the track too. We're closing the gap down on the track. And there we've got a chasing group coming here. Sean Kelly's been writing down information. I've been talking to Nisha Shabella all the way from sunny Australia. It's their summer coming up. A safe journey back, Nisha. Thanks for having you on the programme. We may talk to you later on when one of the Australians does something. You're keeping your fingers crossed, I know, for any of them, particularly maybe Robin McHugh in the sprint, but I don't know, Baden Cook might be able to push and shove a bit more than him, and you never know with Stuart O'Grady. If he takes off in the last half a lap or something, anything can happen.
And you never know with Brad McGee either.
Oh no, it's going to be a great race.
I think Baden and Bradley may work together.
Yeah. And don't forget Britain's David Miller will be in there soon somewhere. Thank you, Nissa, and we're going in fact to have the president. Oh, the crash! 185 has gone down now suddenly in that crash. That's Kolev of Bulgaria. We'll just wait a moment to see. Often they try and get up very quickly and back on the bike, but he took a bit of thump. We'll probably have an action replay, a slow motion one of that. You see the team cars going through, all provided to us by Fiat. There are 25 of those for the top 25 cycling nations, and it was swinging out on the bend, and the sort of snaking that as they came back, he must have just got it wrong, and there he is upended, and we can hear the ambulance in the background. You can probably hear it. Well, he's up. But I think his race is run. He's on his own. He's the only rider from Bulgaria. And I expect this is actually, I don't think we have a Bulgarian commentary team, so that might be picked up in Eurosport. You saw it there live as he crashed, and surely I think he's going to be out of the race now. The pace is pretty quick. We've been averaging some 45 kilometres an hour. They've done so far about 105 kilometres of this race. There are Boulderberg, the rider's getting now around this rather nasty corner. Thank goodness it's drying out a bit and there's no sign of rain. rain, which is predominantly an Irish subject, I suppose. We're welcoming here PJ Nolan, the Cycling Ireland president, and we hope to we might nip in and nip out, by the way. What's the PJ stand for? Is that what you're called?
It's Patrick John, named after a pope and a saint.
Right. Do we call you Patrick, John, or PJ?
Oh, PJ is fine.
PJ is fine. It sounds like tips in England. We have tea called PJ tips. You haven't brought the chimpanzees with you, have you?
Not just yet.
Oh, I've insulted the president. I'm in trouble now. Right. First of all, before we get into the race here, a word about your Irish lads' performances so far in this event.
Yeah, well, it's been very good so far. We had 10 riders in the under 23 and the junior race, and 9 of them finished. The guy that didn't finish punctured and fell. So we brought forward this Team Ireland initiative this year for riders. We have a house in Belgium that Sean Kelly sorted out, and it's obviously worked out very well because they were competitive in the race. Obviously, Mark Scanlon was one of the favourites in the under 23 race, and the team rode very well in that race. As in the juniors yesterday, Nicholas Roach came within half a lap of fighting for the first place. So it's been a very good situation all around, and we have a rider for the first time in 10 years in the elite race, which is very good. I think it's the last time since Sean was racing that David O'Loughlin is there today, and he's still there, so it's great to see that. And
from what we've seen so far, PJ, there's a lot of young talent coming forward. We could see them in this elite road race in 3-4 years time, couldn't we?
Well, hopefully that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to develop an initiative, and we've been doing it with the help of Stephen Roach and Sean Kelly. They've been very helpful so far in using contacts to get riders placed. I mean, this year Mark Scanlon was through Stephen got placed in AG2R, and that was very good, and he's had a good stagiaire now, and he's got a contract. So hopefully in the future what we'll try to do is get the best riders and give them the best chance possible, and this Team Ireland initiative in Belgium is one of the ways we can do that, and also with better funding from the Sports Council and the Olympic Council. We had the chef de mission for the Olympic Council, Willie O'Brien, out here during the week, and he's trying to prepare the very best way possible for our riders to go to the Olympics, and we're working in collaboration with them all the time.
How difficult is sponsorship in the economic climate right now?
Well, I think it's obviously you have to have a track record. We're very lucky. We appointed a new chief executive last year, Eamon Duffy, and he's very much a commercial man. And Eamon has secured a long-term sponsorship with Hibernian. We also have good sponsorship with Maryland, Stena, AIB and Enervit, a lot of good sponsors. So obviously the whole thing is about servicing the sponsors and how you can keep them there for the long term. It's not just about getting the most out of a sponsorship. I think it has to be more a partnership than a sponsorship, and that way it works out well.
PJ, we'll just break off now because the race is beginning to develop for our very eyes. Things happen, then it gets back in, things happen after that. Sean, we've got a bit of an attack coming off here because Mullo has been caught while we've been talking, hasn't he?
No, he's still out there.
Oh, he's still out there?
Yes, yes, his advantage is coming down rapidly. He's around the 30 seconds, and we see Camazin here who's been in the attack, and riders coming across. So it's starting really to hot up now. You can see the way the bunch is starting to pull out, and it's a sign that the race is hotting up, and I think from here on in we will definitely see a lot more of a lot of attacking. I think it'll be a very active race, and Morrow, I think his time out front is going to be very short-lived now.
Intriguing to see Camazin going there. I mean, he's world champion in 1998 at Valkenburg. Surely wouldn't he be sort of right to stay a bit late and before he tries his hand? Or the Swiss got some tactics here, because looking down the list of riders they've got there, I wouldn't say they've got an out-and-out sprinter. Zeberg, both the Zeberg, particularly Batesberg, they're quite a useful sprinter, but are they going to sort of keep sending a rider down the road towards the back end, do you think, one at a time?
Well, I think for Camazin, he has got to get up there in a group, because he's not going to win here in a sprint. When he won in Valkenburg, it's a totally different circuit. It was a very bad conditions and a very hard race, and of course the hill in Valkenburg, he was with totally different guys in the sprint. Although he did win, I think there was a few guys together in the sprint, but he has to get away here and get away in a break of any chance to pull off this one. So he's one of many who is that situation. I think we should see more and more of that attacking now. But we see the Belgians also. Ludo Dirksen there, he gave it he turned on the gas a few times. I think we will see him putting on the gas a few more times from here on to the finish.
So that's, you're watching it live on Eurosport then, as we've now got Morrow coming through, and when he gets there he'll see a sign which shows that there is now just 9 laps to go towards the finish of the race. So they've gone through the lap 10, we're now coming towards the 11th lap of the race. We'll give you the rundown on that gap because he's been out there pretty well all the time, and with now just 9 laps to go. Oh, his days are numbered. Cameras here foreshortening the run-in as the snake is beginning to develop.
And I think we will see more of the snake from here on, because when Morrow gets caught up, I think we will see a lot of guys, you know, up to the front, guys attacking. A lot of riders will be, you know, watching for to get into the break, because this is a time where a break could get away, and if it's a substantial one, well then it could be a one that could go a long ways towards the end and maybe make it to the finish.
And on the big wide, would you wait till you come out of the circuit though, Sean? It's such a wide circuit. With any attacks we've seen here in the past, have been rather abortive. Would you wait till you come up that, you know, off the circuit, that little narrow drag?
Yes, I think on the drag is, you know, the best place to make some bit of difference, because on the, you know, the big wide roads here, you know, you make a big effort and guys will latch on your wheel, where on the climb, you know, the guys in the slipstream, they don't get as much of a benefit. So on the climb is the best place, but you know, that's so short of a climb. It's, you know, it's difficult to wait for that every time, and I think we will see riders attacking, you know, everywhere and anywhere from here on in.
Well, they've been riding now for just over 3 hours on this race, which will take the riders around 20 laps of this circuit. They've got 9 laps to go now, and the total distance 256 kilometres. The elite men's road race from Zolder, the 12.8 kilometre circuit is the one they're covering now. Just recapping that Jackie Duran took off on the first lap and managed to go around there at an average speed of 47 kilometres per hour. He was caught coming out through the circuit for the first time by Morrow and Murev, who attacked, and then they went out and stayed out there. In fact, Morrow now has been caught, so imagine he's been out there now for something about 9 laps of this race. That's around about nearly 100 kilometres. So he's done the best of 60 miles, and he's now going back into the main group as the field's still travelling remarkably quickly, averaging 44 kilometres an hour. The last lap time was 17 minutes and 46 seconds. They're all over the place, and Sean Kelly said as they came into the start-finish line with 9 laps to go that the attacks would come thick and fast, and my goodness, he's written the script already, I think. But I can't do is turn the book to find on the last page as to who's going to win this race. So stay with us on Eurosport. We've got some 9 laps coming up of this race, and they're going round about 17 minutes per lap. So we've still got a bit of time to go before we finish at what's it going to be, at 4 o'clock-ish, 4:30. That's Central European time, of course, about 1 hour earlier for Great Britain. In fact, no, 5:30. We're going rather quickly, actually. This corner now, thank goodness that the weather is dried out. This is good to see how the pros go around. And if you're recording it, by the way, back at home, and then compare that with some of the previous racing we've had on this circuit, these professionals, no doubt about it, they know when not to take risks, they know when to take risks, and they've now got around that safe and sound, and the field altogether. Belgium's very active at the front at the moment. In fact, it seems to me, Sean, that there's about 5 or 6 different nations having a go.
Yes, again, you know, the Belgians, the French here. We see Richard is coming up here on the front. The Dutch team is on the front. So a lot of teams, you know, that have to do something in the next number of laps, because the sprint is going to be a massive sprint. Is not going to, you know, play in their tactic at all. So I think we will see a lot of this from now on. And actually, before we came on there, when PJ was talking, we see the Italians in the front. There was 3 or 4 of them driving on the front, which was surprising to see them trying to do that too early. I was wondering, you know, are they going to go down the same road? So we see them doing all the work really early, and then in the end, the man who they set out to do the work for left on his own and not being able to support him, which is the total wrong thing. You know, you have to calculate that you can take a man to the point in the race where he can take on his job from there, but not leave him in no man's land, because that is a total disaster.
Bad luck at the moment, by the way, coming over the headphones, is that Teutenberg has had a problem, and he's asking for the service car to come up just when the speed goes. I mean, he's quite a useful sprinter, but right now he's gone back to get some service engine. Again, it's the Swiss riders, and here we are. This is Teutenberg getting some work done on his bicycle at the back. It doesn't look too bad, actually, and by the way, while he's hanging on to the car, he's not losing much ground right now. It's better than having a puncture, having to stop and then get the bikes into. Sean, there's another problem, surely, at the world level, because they're each riding for different teams, and all the bikes are different, or not all of them, a lot of different bikes there, aren't there?
Yes, that's, you know, they have different suppliers, different material on the bike, so it is a difficult job, and also for the team car, you know, who gets a bike on the top, and it's difficult to have a bike for everybody, so it is a more of a problem with the national teams, but you know, they're able to sort it out pretty well. They would have a lot of spare bikes in the pits if somebody have a problem earlier on that he goes out of the race or he's not up there on the final, well then they change bikes and they could pull a bike out of the pits and put it on the car and take off the one they don't need, so they have it pretty well covered.
Right, talk about bikes then, PJ. What sort of help do you get from the industry? Because running your sort of operation, particularly at the international level we've been talking about, and running that special home, is there a pool of bikes that you're able to call upon, or the riders all have to have their own bikes?
No, we're very lucky actually. We did a deal with Merlin that are owned by the American Bicycle Group, Merlin Bicycles, and we've got a number of bicycles from them this year, and it's worked out very well. They're very good bicycles, the lads are very happy with them, and we hope to continue with that particular deal. Obviously we get help from the industry too, with our drink supplier Enovit. They've come on board this year, and they've again promised that they'll be with us for quite some time, and we're very glad with that because it's a very good product, and the riders find that, you know, if we're getting the best stuff in the world, obviously, you know, if that support is good, it improves their performance.
Well, this looks like it's splitting right now before our very eyes. Just a quick word about this new strip you've got. I've been very impressed with it when I was out in Malaysia for the Eagle Tour, and again in the time trial we could pick up on this new green strip with the Celtic designs on it and the old Irish-like lettering, very traditional. How's it going down?
Well, it's going down very well. We collaborated with Planet X through Frank Campbell. We put this deal together with him, and it's been selling very well. I think it's more than doubled its sales, and as people see it on TV, more and more people are looking for it. It's obviously very good quality. We try to get the best quality for the people, and we're going to extend that line next year.
Well, I think it's very smart and very pleased. I'm not saying that jerseys you had before were naff, but this one really stands out. It's something that even the average punter could just ride and ride around. It looks smart, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing about cycling. You have to make it cool for the young people to wear it. If you get something that's cool and they like it, they'll wear it, and that's good for the sponsors who are visible on it, because obviously our sponsor Hibernian is on it and they're very happy with it, and then it's good for the sport, because if they think cycling is a cool thing to do, maybe more people will come to it.
And at the schools level, is that also attracting them? How's it going there with the schools?
Yeah, we have an initiative whereby we have 4 sets of teams go around to the schools, and they train the young children how to ride their bike safely, and if they want to go into the clubs after that, it's their choice. We encourage them to do so, and the clubs will bring them on from there, because after all, cycling is a numbers game, and the more people you get in, the more chance you have of finding a champion. Now, I know that talking to Brian Cookson in British Cycling, they've been doing a lot of work with the START program there, and that's something that, you know, we're trying to emulate, but it may take a while.
Jalabert, just a minute, there's something happening with Jalabert, I think, coming over. Sorry to interrupt there, but I think Jalabert's got a puncture or something at the back. We may go back with our cameras to pick it up. He came over the headphones while we were talking to PJ Nolan, the Cycling Ireland president, and we may pick it up now. There is Jalabert pulling over on the side of the road. That won't be too bad. It's going rather quickly now. You'll have to work as David Miller starts to go off the front. This is just what we explained to, and one of the lads from Australia have spotted the move, and they recognise the danger, because David puts his head down and goes. It could be quite difficult. Hasn't he sat down? Now he's sat down the saddle. He's really gone off the front and opened this one up over the top of that slight rise. He's hammered off down there, and this looks like a very useful ride indeed. He's got the Australian with him at the moment, and that is Matthew Heyman. Quite a good all-rounder, but he's not the man selected, I think, for the finish. He's probably just gone to Mark David. I think they would much preferred to have had one of the big hitters like Nathan O'Neill as a good time tries, or Michael Rogers to come with him, but I think possibly Heyman's just been going up there just to hold him back. We'll wait and see then, as Jalabert at the back is changing his back wheel. At the front of the race you can see the gaps are coming up now. Christophe Mullo, who was originally out there in the lead, has been now drawn back, and this is the rider who crashed from Bulgaria, and he's decided to call it a day. No doubt about it, he would never got back on his own. He's the only rider from there. David Miller looks back now, and the attack comes again, and this time it's going to be from the Netherlands. It is being fragmented. That attack seems to have caused mayhem behind, but can they keep this up? The speed at which they've been travelling, averaging some 44.8 kilometres an hour. We've gone through the halfway point, still at a record average speed on this very flat course. The roads have dried, well, not totally, but nearly dry now. The wind is almost non-existent. A very fast race. It could break the record, and the record set to some 5 years of of the records way back, which we had was the first one on this circuit was Harm Ottenbros, who set then a world record for the World Championships of 41.1 kilometres an hour. Jean-Pierre Montserrat in 1970 did 41.41 to break that record. In 1985, Jung Zoetemelk did 41.5. Valkenburg, Kamazin did 42.8, and then at Ploy the average was 42.9. It looks like we might have that broken the way in which they're going. Sean, it's the speed at which they're attacking, it doesn't seem to be. Is this the high speed of the whole race, meaning that's why it's not going to break? Well,
it's difficult to break here. It's Kamazin here again, who we've seen earlier on, going up the road and trying to get away in a break. It's difficult to break up the bunch because, you know, the circuit, the lap is not difficult enough, but I think if they keep on racing like this they will be getting tired in the end, and of course Jalabert having the puncture, it's not a good moment to have a puncture because it's going to, you know, take quite a bit of an effort to get back back into the bunch again. But you know, we see Miller here, who was with Heyman, and he's went back to the bunch actually now, but he's joined up with the other Kamazin came up to him. But this will take its toll after a number of laps. If they race like this, well, then the riders will be getting, you know, more and more tired. So in the end, I think we will see the gaps appearing a bit quicker in the last 3 or 4 laps.
So it's happening live before your very eyes when they come through. This time, in fact, it's down to 8 laps. My mistake. I looked at the board when it was showing 9. It's down to 8 laps when they come through on this particular occasion. The speed has really shot up then on this championship of the world. The sun, thank goodness, has come out, warming the cockles of our heart for what have been a rather damp conditions earlier on. And now you can see them where they're going. There's a call for the Spanish rider number 4, the Diaz Justo of the Spanish team at the back has a mechanical problem. So now really whipping up here, and in fact David Miller still trying to drive hard at the front, looking quite comfortable, still smarting on the fact that he didn't do the time trial expected. He took the enormous risk. I don't know if you saw it, I've never seen anything like it. He was going across the chicane just like a Formula 1 racing car, taking enormous risk to go and get himself a medal in the elite time trial championship of the world. It didn't work out. He finished in 6th spot. He was 35 seconds down on Botero on that occasion. And just looking at the back here, that's the problem I just put out for you of the Spanish rider who seems to have had troubles there. He's gone back to the service car and still going here. Have you got all the numbers now, Sean? Well, I've been rabbiting on. We certainly see it. I've got it now. 80 is there. Kamazin, yes. 152 Miller. 163. It's the Austrian rider that's gone with it as well. So Rolik of Austria in that group. Those are the 3 riders. There they are. In fact, Wynne they're putting down there. Was it Wynne? My mistake if I was picking up to David the way he went. It's 152. No, they've got it wrong, haven't they?
Yes, they have. It's Miller.
You can see that star when he gets on the bike and rocks it away. Nothing else like it, is there? Well, we'll wait for them to go through and then check the gap back, because we've got Steve Barr now joining us in the commentary point. Our thanks then to PJ Nolan from Cycling Ireland. We didn't have much chance to go much further into the Irish cycling, but we've got one of the greatest Irish cyclists alongside us here, Sean Kelly, to keep his eyes on the affairs. Stephen Roche has been up in the commentary box a couple of days ago because his son Nicholas was riding, so we had the 2 top Irishmen into our commentary box as well here. We're going to have the top Canadian in his day talking to you in just a moment about the World Championships which are taking place in Canada just 12 months from now. Still David Miller on the front, driving hard. Kamazin and Rolik Rollick's been a good rider there or thereabouts. He's a courageous rider. He's prepared to work hard. He comes in with him to it. This is the moment, surely, that if David Miller's going to do it, this is the time to do it. Everyone's looking over their shoulders. The damage has been recognised. The Spanish are taking up the charge, and the gap then as they go across the line there on your screen showing 13 seconds it was, and the time 3 hours and 23 minutes. Officially announced as 14 seconds. There, well, look at the speed, 50 kilometres an hour for that lap. Absolutely phenomenal. Remember, 48, because we have to translate it back into English money, 48 kilometres an hour is 30 miles an hour, so they've just been going around at just over 30 miles an hour. It's a phenomenal performance, and our three riders are the ones that lifted that speed up there. David Miller drifting back off the front. Sean, presumably if they get out of this bit, they won't stay at home and dry. They've got a better chance because it's so exposed, isn't it? You're very visible to the chasers.
Yes, well, it's difficult to create a gap here. We've seen it in the last number of races. Groups ready to get 20 seconds, 30 seconds, but more than that it have been difficult. So it all comes down to what happens in the bunch. If they start looking at each other in the bunch, which at the moment they're not really chasing it, so they could pull out a gap. But I don't see that lasting for long. I think there will be a lot of attacks coming from the bunch again, and these guys, they may be able to get 30 seconds. But you never know in bike racing, and you have to go out there and just give it a go. And as Miller is doing, I think it's the best time. It's a good time to go for a long breakaway.
Hold your breath. We're going to take an ad break and hope when we come back he's still out there and the lead's increasing. Stay with us. You look at the chase group now, and the gap to the leaders, the last time check we had was 30 seconds on this, the Cycling World Road Championship from Zolder, 256 kilometres in all, and down the road has gone Rollick and David Miller and Kamazin. These are the three riders driving hard at the front, and the chase being taken up by the riders from the Netherlands in the orange. Behind the white and green is the Australian team, and behind that is one of the German riders in the white with the yellowish behind him then. And then you can see, I think that's Zolder moving through, certainly one of the Swiss riders, and that's the infiltration of the Swiss rider is just making life a difficult. And somehow, Sean, for some reason the German doesn't want to chase it down.
No, he's not too concerned at the moment, but again, depend on the tactics. It's just it's difficult to know exactly what tactics the team are employing, and a three-man group, they're not really concerned about it yet. Certainly the bigger teams are not, like the Italians and the Spanish team they're not putting men up front for the moment. The position is, if you can get these three guys up the road and then hold them at a 2-minute gap or a 2.5 minute gap, it's a better way, because things are steadier behind and the riders take it a bit easier. But if you try to keep all the bunch together, well, then there's just attacks all the time, to the left, to the right, down the middle of the road, and that sort of thing, for a team to control it, it's very difficult. And the possibility of a big group getting away, is always there. So a three-man group is a good thing for some of these teams who want to get it down to a sprint.
Well, there we are, the three riders in the lead. Better two, out of sight, out of mind. They're getting to a point when on past this road, a bit of a longer straight coming up shortly, but it's not the same as when you're out on that motor racing circuit. There they go. Thank goodness he's dried now, because that had been a very dangerous part of the circuit, as all three seem to be working quite well, and one or two tacks coming up in dribs and drabs. We're welcome to the commentary point here. We keep ringing the changes with our guests during the day, and here alongside us, who was in the silver medal position in 1984, Steve Bauer. I suppose his other claim to fame was missing the Paris-Roubaix by a gnat's whisker. It's about a tyre, wasn't it, Steve?
Yeah, it was pretty close. Half a tyre.
Half a tyre, right, yes. We all felt for that occasion.
Too close.
So, you're here what's your position then with this World Championship?
Well, I'm on the board of directors for the World Cycling Championship in Hamilton next fall, and I'm also going to be managing the inbound needs of tourism and packages, and also accommodations for some of the teams if they need it.
Now, before we get to talk about the course and what you're doing in the plans there, and everybody wants to get a piece of paper and write it down, how do they get in touch? Because most people have access to a computer. Have you got a sort of website or something?
Well, the best place to get the information is on the website, and that'll be Hamilton2003.com. And that'll be the principal site where you can gather the information, get maps, get ticket information. And that homepage is up now, and there'll be more site and information under construction. And the next 30 days, we'll have it all there.
I had a folder here somewhere, and it said something about the course is the most. I don't think I can't really put the most horrific course, but it seems to me you've got a rather tough course, have you, for the road race?
Yeah, it's a very, very good race course. It's right down in the city of Hamilton, which will be unique. The lap is approximately 13 kilometers around, so something like here in Zolder, but the terrain is completely different. We have 2 very tough climbs per lap, so the riders will basically be going up and down what they call the Niagara Escarpment. Each time up is about 100 meters altitude gain, and for the elite division, it'll be almost 4,000 meters of climbing.
You sadistic man.
So,
did you select the course?
Well, I helped to describe it, you know, to make sure the boys have a good challenge when they come to Canada. But it's going to determine true world champions. I mean, not unlike today, but a completely different style of rider. A tough guy, you know, potentially a Lance Armstrong or a Bogart or a Decker or, you know, a young guy that's got those climbing abilities.
You two both ridden the World Championships over the years, how does it sort of happen that you get a flat course, a hilly course, or this course? Do you just make the selection of the course yourself, and then the UCI approve it? Or some say, we don't want it too hard, or we don't want it too flat. I mean, this is flat. Yours is going to be, it says here, I found it, witness the drama when the worlds collide on what is arguably the most challenging, grueling course ever. Did you write the script?
No, I didn't write the script, but I mean, it's going to be an exciting race course, and without a doubt, a tough one. And to answer your question, I'm not really sure. I think, you know, depending on the venue, they have to determine the race course from what you have. Obviously, here in Zolder, there's a fantastic circuit, and it's what works in this site. And in Hamilton, it's definitely a different and completely different environment. So I guess that's the way it's determined. Barcelona or Chambéry or Colombia.
That's the great
different.
thing about cycling, isn't it? It's every year it changes, something different. People, but 1 minute now. The gap is 1 minute for this leading threesome. Coming over the radio tour now, the gap is 1 minute. That's great news for the Brits. And here we got a couple of riders trying to chase down that. And who we have there, Sean, at the moment?
Well, we have the Dutch rider Traxel and Lang, the German rider. In the bunch, there's a little bit of relaxing at the moment because the gap has pulled out a bit, and those guys have managed to get away. So if those guys can join up with the group of Miller and make it a 5-man breakaway, well, then that could get very interesting if the bunch do not start to react. But I think certainly we haven't seen the end of the Italians and the Spaniards more, so I think they will allow this thing to be maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and maybe hold at that, and then just wind it up in the last couple of laps and hopefully get it down to a bunchment.
Well, next year won't be like that, I'd expect, with the ups and downs. I think the group like this will be much more slimmed down on that circuit. As it's in Hamilton, then, what about the hotels? Because we've had to travel. We've had a horrific journey to get here today. We've got to be 5 minutes before we went on air. We got here. It took us 2 hours to do a journey. We're normally doing 40 minutes because of the small roads and the layout of the circuit. A lot of people are able to stay in Hamilton. Are the hotels not that far from the circuit?
Well, we have some large hotels right down in the city, and there's a lot of hotels in the region of Hamilton. But of course, the championship accommodation needs for the championship is quite demanding. So there'll be people staying within 30-40 minutes of the championship as well.
It's our breakaway group. They're 1 minute ahead of the main peloton, and here, as they go through Boulderberg, the two chasermen, Traxel and Lung, they're about 40 seconds down. They're in no man's land at the moment. Be interested to see if they can close up on the threesome at the front, Camerton, Miller and Rollick. We're talking to Steve Bauer, very successful racing man in his day, and now very much involved as the director of the World Championships next year in Hamilton. For people who go over there, a lot of people just like to go and see the racing, but what's the countryside roundabout? Will you say, look, if you've got to come here, you've got to go and see this or that or the other?
Well, we have a great region close to Hamilton. Obviously, a lot of people know where Niagara Falls is. It's one of the icons of the world. It's a wonderful falls, but even beyond Niagara Falls, we have some beautiful countryside, great for cycling. Interesting wineries, some great restaurants.
Good, I'm going.
It's a little Bordeaux of Niagara region in Canada. We have some good wines. Toronto City is right nearby, some interesting attractions, theater. There's lots of things to do. If people want to come over and spend some extra time, I think it'll be a fun time.
Well, we look forward to being with you, but what about the weather? Do we have to take all these woolies we've got here with us?
Well, you see the sunshine in here, it'll be just like that in Canada. Yeah.
Oh, there we are. A politician already.
Yeah.
With his answer. I thought it all snowed from about mid-September onwards in Canada.
Well, the really legitimate answer is the weather will be average temperature between 12 and 18 degrees.
That's good.
But today I understand the weekend over in Canada it's 20 degrees this weekend, so it can be very, very nice, but it could be cool and clear, and you know, if it rains one day a week,
that's it.
That's normal.
Well, no, I think one of the Irish chaps we spoke to the other day, these two had a bit of giggly. I'm going to send them home without any tea. One of the Irish chaps was saying he wanted to go skiing, and he was a bit concerned, but it was before the ski season. Can you still go a bit north and get some skiing?
No, not in Ontario. It's too early. Probably even in the mountains it would be too early.
Will
in October. Yeah.
So leave your skis at home if you're going out there, holiday makers.
And bring your bike.
Bring your bike. What's it like cycling out there?
Awesome. It's very, very nice. Nice terrain. Southern Ontario is a pretty area for riding, particularly the Niagara region. We have good infrastructure of cycling paths, some beautiful country roads. It's a nice area.
So we look forward to that occasion, and of course if you book in advance you get some quite cheap, I say cheap flights, lower priced flights, only because crossing the Atlantic now, is there a main, where's the big main airport that we fly into, is to say leaving London or Paris or you know, Berlin, so where do you fly into? Which is the main airport?
Toronto.
Into
Toronto International is approximately 45 minutes from Hamilton.
45 minutes by car or by small plane? By car. Have you got a speed limit there?
Yeah, speed limit's about 120 kilometers an hour.
Oh, that's right. Not like America there, where they dole along.
Yeah, no, we boogie along okay.
Sevilla's got a technical problem coming up over our headphones. Problems for Sevilla. Well, he's had more than his fair share of problems in the time trial in Madrid at the end of the Tour of Spain just about 2 or 3 weeks ago now. He was off his bike twice in that time trial, which was so critical for him, and that put him out of the goal. Here we are now looking back at that for Sevilla. It's going to be a front wheel change, which shouldn't be too difficult, but the speed is up at the moment, and they've got to get the... Sean, what's going to happen now? Because the Spanish have been up the front trying to sort of keep this thing contained, to get them back now to look after Freire, to Sevilla. It's not going to be very good, or do you think they're going to abandon him because they're more interested in Freire?
It's difficult to know. Maybe they will just leave him do his own thing and get the change and come back in the cars, because you know you have the advantage with all the cars behind here. If you can get on the tail end of the cavalcade, well then you can work your way up through it. Although in a circle it's a bit more difficult because with all the corners. So you know, but maybe they will just push 1 or 2 men back to wait from and get him on, because depending on their tactic, what he's got to do, what's the job he's got to do today. So. You know, we'll just have to wait and see, but it is definitely now is a difficult time to a bad time to have a problem, mechanical problem, because the speed is going to be on, and to get back it's always going to be, you know, take quite a big effort, and those sorts of efforts, you know, you can pay for in the end, especially the favourites, if some of the favourites. But if those guys have a problem, well then there's normally, you know, 2 or 3 guys will wait from getting back in quite quickly.
And here then we've got our 3 leaders coming through. When they come through this point, the laps are coming down. You can see 3 hours and 39 minutes have elapsed on the rightest jersey on the right hand side. That's Kamazin, previous world champion. Rolik is a very good strong rider from Austria. He's always there or thereabouts. He's now taking them through here, and we've got 7 laps to go in the race now. So you can see that the gap, the last check we had to the main pack was a minute. It's now 1 minute and 10 seconds according to the headphones of these 2 riders here, and 1 minute and 30 seconds back to the main group. It just shows you how the telephoto lens shortens it, because that doesn't look to me like over a minute, but there's still some way from swinging down into the finish. There we are, they've got 500 meters to go. Poles have gone up. The Italians have gone up. Cipollini's just gone through our screen there. If you're looking for Cipollini's number, because sometimes the camera, you can see it at home when you get the helicopter goes up, he's got number 17. The Italian team then, Bettini's number 14, but Bortolami's 15. 16 is Bramati, 17 Cipollini, 18 Di Luca, 19 Lombardi, 20 Nardello, 21 Pataki, 22 Sacchi, 23 Scinto, 24 Schiera and 25 Tosato. 1:23. Oh, he's now back then. We just heard that Sevilla's got back. As he's gone through the start-finish line here, we can actually see him going back with his teammates who've collected him and got him back into the main group. Now, this is always a problem when they, Sean, surely going so fast to the pits now, this is the danger's there before they've been able to take their time.
Well, it's sometimes it's a bit safer when you're going fast because the bunch is pulled out in a line. When they're going slowly, they're very much grouped together, and if somebody make a big movement, well, then he can take a number of riders down. So you know, the speed going through the pits is a better job because it's well pulled out the bunch, and these guys can, you know, take a bottle going at a very fast rate. So that's not going to be a problem, and it's normally when you're going through the pits at the slower rate and the early part of the race, that's the time you get a few guys who fall down.
So there we are, words of wisdom from Sean Kelly, who finished in third spot in Goodwood when we had the race there. Great Britain, you might remember it. That, Sean, wasn't a particularly tough circuit, though, was it? That did, I'm talking about motor racing circuit, it actually went around part of the old motor racing circuit. There was just that drag up towards the finish at Goodwood when Cerrone won, Le Mans was second, and you were back there in third spot. You'll probably tell me now that that climb was more than the drag, it really hurt you, but that was seen to be a fairly flattish course other than that.
Well, the drag up to the finish was hurting in the end. You know, with such a distance of a race, it went up there. It was, you know, a kilometre and a half, maybe a kilometre and 3/4. So when you have a hill like that at a distance of that race, well, then it can, you know, it can.
Lombardi punctured. Sorry about that, Sean. Well, he's just punked about the right place, I suppose, in the pits.
Certainly has, and if he's got a bike in the pits, well, then he can make a bike change quite quickly.
Again, the chase now being taken up by the Italians in the blue, the red and white are the Polish riders coming near the front, and that could make life a bit difficult. The Poles are well known to get on the front, all muscle and heaving and shoving and going pretty quick indeed. 87 kilometres for Britain's David Miller, Rolik and Cameron Zindauer from Austria and from Switzerland, 1 minute and 23 seconds. Going back then to the third place that you had in Barcelona, Steve, what was that particular circuit like?
It was a tough one. Yeah, very tough. I think that climb was a lot longer than what we're gonna see in Hamilton. But I remember there was 2 climbs per lap. One was smaller, and one was quite tough and long and very steep at the top, which is the characteristic of that hill. I was good. I had a good race there. I came off the Olympics very, very fit. Came to Europe and trained with Greg LeMond and Phil Anderson for a few weeks before Barcelona. I did very well.
That was it. So you're listening to Medal Winners in the World Championships. Here is Eurosport's coverage of this, the 2002 Worlds. We're going to take a short break as David Miller still presses on, looking for a medal.